I'm back. Okay. So this is my TV Talk corner. That's the only reason I changed the location. I'm not trying to act like it's a new day. It's the same day. But yeah, it's your kid Sino back with another TV Talk. So let's get into it. So today I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite shows. I'm currently rewatching it because I was looking for something to watch one day and Netflix was like leaving soon, and I was like, oh well, let me just watch this because it's like a show that doesn't distract me since I've already seen it multiple times. So that show is The 100. If you know it, no you don't. Not until I finish telling it right now. So I am going to give you a recap of season 1 of The 100. So this has 7 seasons, by the way. So if you want me to talk about other seasons, leave a comment down below, but we're only going to do season 1 so that this is not too long. All right, season 1, The 100. It opens with a scene of the show's main character, Clark Griffin. I want to say played by Eliza Taylor. I want to say that's who plays it. Scribbling on the floor. She's scribbling on the floor. And she is drawing a picture of Earth. Why is she doing that? We are about to find out. All right, so it's Clark Griffin. She's scribbling on the floor. She's drawing a picture of Earth and what she feels Earth will look like. And all of a sudden, her door opens. She's grabbed by a bunch of security guards, and she's being dragged out the room. She's kicking and screaming. She's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And they're like trying to take off her watch. She's like, "No, my dad gave me that." And all of a sudden, her mom runs up, and her mom's like, "It's okay, Clark." And they trank her. Then she falls asleep. It all goes black. But her mom did tuck her watch back into like her little clothing situation or whatever. When she wakes up, she is strapped in. And she's about to go somewhere. Where is she going? You're about to find out. Next on the screen, it's her, and there's 100 kids. The 100. They're all strapped in to these seats. They're all looking around like, what's going on? Next thing you know, Chancellor Jaha, played by Isaiah Washington, pops on the screen. Prisoners of the Ark. Prisoners. Yes. All 100 of these teenagers are prisoners. And they live on the Ark, which is basically a combined space station floating in space after the nuclear bombing of Earth 100 years ago. Well, it has been almost 100 years. It's been 97 years. So three shy of 100 years. And they weren't supposed to go back to Earth for another 100 years before the Earth was survivable. So they thought. So why are they shipping all these kids down to Earth when the Earth's not supposed to be survivable for another 100 years? Well, they're running out of air. Look at that. Metal tin can in space floating around, running out of air, okay? This is actually a problem that was found by Clark's father, and he attempted to warn the people, and they floated him. What is floating, do you say? Floating is basically where they put you in an airlock, and then they close one door, and then they open the door behind you, and you're sucked out into space. Pretty brutal. And this is a punishment received by anyone over the 18 who basically commits any crime. Like, it could be as little as hitting someone in the face, and they will float you. But if you're under the age of 18, you get thrown into jail, and then you could be reintroduced back into society at 18 if it's deemed fit. Okay, so all 100 of them, they're strapped into this drop ship. The chancellor's on there like, "Yep, we're sending you down to Earth. Hopefully you make it. We'll see. Like, there's communication system in here. When you hit the ground, let us know what's up." And they drop them. They're going through Earth's atmosphere. One of the kids, Finn, I don't know who he's played by. He has a lot of hair though. There's one of those in every TV show. There's just a white guy with a lot of hair, and I don't know. I don't get it. Someone let me know. Is that what the women want? Is that what they're asking for? And he's getting out. And he's all like floating around because they're like in zero gravity for a moment before the thrusters come on. And he's all floating around. They're like, "Oh, look at the spacewalker! Look at the spacewalker!" Come to find out, like the crime he committed was basically using unauthorized. He went on an unauthorized spacewalk out the door, and that cost him like 3 months of air. And 2 other kids get up out their seats to like follow him around, and Clark's all like, "You need to sit back down. Like when the thrusters come back on, like or like when we hit the atmosphere, like you're gonna fling all over the place." And he's all like, "Calm down, princess. Ha ha ha. Like I got this. Look at me. I got this." Boom. They hit the atmosphere. Everyone goes flying up, jiggling around. They hit the ground. Boom. The other 2 kids died on impact, but of course Finn lives, And so they get down there, and yeah, everyone's just like, okay, like now what? Like they're still all buckled into their little car seats, and they're looking around. And they're like, okay, like what should we do? Like should we go out there? And Clark's like, wait, like you don't know if like it's breathable, and like you need to like hold on, don't open the door. And here comes Bellamy, and he's played by, his real name is kind of crazy, but his real name is Bob Morley. So not Marley, Morley with an O. His name is Bob Morley. I feel like his parents were kind of messed up for that one, but go off, queen. So Bellamy, he's wearing his little guard uniform, and he's all like, "Well, we're gonna die in here anyway. We can't just sit around." And all of a sudden, you hear this voice come from the back, and it's like, "Bellamy? And this girl comes running up. Enter Octavia. Octavia is Bellamy's sister. Why is that such a big deal? Because no one has a sibling on the Ark except for Bellamy and Octavia. They are siblings, and Octavia was actually hid in the floor for 16 years. I'm going ahead and give you the backstories because their backstories are kind of like they're melded in with all of the happenings going on, but it's not like if I tell it out of order, it's gonna like mess something up. So yes, Bellamy has a sister. His sister Octavia was born illegally on the Ark. His mom was dibbling and dabbling with, I don't know why she was doing what she was doing, but she was doing some strange things and decided to get pregnant again, have another kid, and then hide that kid. And so they hid her in this little slot. Basically, they have random inspections, but her mom always knew when the random inspections were going because she had a hookup with the guard. And if you know what I mean. And they had this like section of their floor cut off, and Octavia would hide under that section of the floor and wait for like the inspection to be over. One day though, while their mom was out, this is when Octavia turned 16, Bellamy was a cadet for the guard, and he was able to sneak her out the house. He was like, "Come on, like you can come out," because they were having like a masquerade ball, so everyone had to wear masks anyway. And he basically snuck her into the dance party, and something happened. There was a solar flare, and I guess whenever there's a solar flare, they have to make sure everyone's accounted for, so they all scan them in and stuff. But obviously she didn't have proper ID because she was born illegally, and so Bellamy tried to get her back under the floor so she could be safe from the solar flare, but the guards ended up stopping her. They found her. They floated their mom, because she committed a crime by having another child, and Octavia was thrown in jail. Why? I actually don't really understand why she was thrown in jail, because it's not really like she committed a crime. Like, she was just born, so they really threw her in jail just for being born. So they run up, they're having this heart-touching scene, and Octavia's like, they're all talking about me. He was like, well, let's give them something to talk about. And she's like, what? And this is like an iconic scene. That's the only reason I'm describing it like this. And he's like, how about being the first person on the ground in 100 years? And she's like, and I'm only gonna say she's played by a woman named Marie. I'm not gonna butcher her last name. It'll be on the screen, okay? And so she's like, yeah, okay. So they pop that door open. Octavia takes a couple of steps out, takes a deep breath, and she screams her famous line, "We're back, bitches!" We're back, bitches! And then like everyone just runs out, and is that Foster the Kids, or is that Green Day? You know the song "We're Waking Up to Ash and Dust." That one. That song starts playing, and they're like all running around and stuff, and yeah, so they're on the ground and they can breathe. They didn't all immediately die. So yeah, of course Clark though, in Clark fashion, she's being all serious, and she's like, I wonder, like she's like looking around, and like Finn's all like, what's wrong, princess? She's like, don't fucking call me that. And not straight like that, but that's basically what she was saying, like, don't call me that. And she's just like, oh, well, I don't know, like, you know, we're on the ground, whatever. And or she was talking about the communication system. So I guess the communication system had gotten fried upon like entering the atmosphere, so they had no way to contact anyone up on the ark. And basically the only way of communication they had was everyone had on these bracelets, and the bracelets basically kept check of their vitals, like were they getting water, who's dead, who's not, you know, like stuff like that. And so like Bellamy automatically assumes a leadership position. It's mostly just because he has a gun, and everyone just follows him, and they're like, yeah, like what, like this is what you need to be doing, like whatever, like and he's just basically like, do whatever you want. Like he's a really bad leader at first. He's like, just do whatever you want. And Clark's like, because before they landed in the video, Jaha was all like, you need to get to Mount Weather. That's where like we found that was a bunker. It should have like a bunch of supplies, and like those supplies should be able to like help you guys live and stuff until they can join them. So Clark's all like looking all pensive and stuff, and Finn's like, what's wrong? And she's like, well, we're here and Mount Weather is way over there. So it's basically like a 2 to 3 days walk away from where they are at. So Clark's all like getting ready to go, and Bellamy's like, well, why does that matter? Like, and she's like, well, we need to be able to eat and like Finn medical supplies. They might have a communication system, whatever. So she's like, well, I'm going, and if anyone wants to come, they can. So of course Finn's little happy ass, he gets on. He's like, I'm gonna go. Octavia goes, and then 2 other main characters, Jasper and Monty. These are like a little duo. They got locked up because they were stealing weed out of Farm Station. And yeah, like they're like just super cool bros. They're bros. So they all start making the journey to go walk to Mount Weather and try to find like supplies for everybody, you know. And they get to like this lake. So like they're walking, and Clark's like, oh, like I haven't seen any like signs of life. She's like, is the food even edible here? Like, is there like animals? What's going on? They come across this deer, and they're like, oh, well, like there's a deer, and like they're like all watching it, like all mesmerized and stuff. And then someone steps on a twig, the deer turns around and has 2 heads, like obviously an effect from the radiation in the air. And so like they continue their journey. They slept the night. Some little like cutesy shit happened. They slept, they walked, they end up on this lake. At this point, Jasper had been pining for Octavia. You know, he's like, this is the girl of my dreams, and I just need her to look at me. Octavia wants to get with Finn. Her and Clark's got like this like weird, like she has like this weird grudge on Clark. Clark's like, I do not care about this man, at least not at the moment. And so yeah, like they're walking, they get up on the lake, and they're all like, oh my gosh, water. So they start drinking some water, you know, like, you know, playing around a little bit, splashing each other. And Octavia just takes all her clothes off. She had on like bra and underwear, but she takes all her clothes off and just jumps into the lake. And they're like, what? Don't do that. Like Clark's like, don't do that. Don't do that. And she pops up. She's like, come on, guys. Like the water's good. So they all start to take their clothes off. Next thing you know, Octavia starts dragging around in the lake and she's screaming. She's like, ah! There's like a giant snake creature inside of the lake, and it like done gripped onto her. And so Finn goes in, saves her, and Monty's all like, that's how you impress the girl, and or whatever. And so I think this is where they hunker down for the night, and like they vibe, and they're like, okay, like what are we gonna do about the snake? But they like take a little nap. And the next day they like find like this vine to swing across the road. And so, or swing across the lake. They find like a vine, just like swing, like Tarzan style, just whatever. And so Finn's like all pulling on it. He's like, all right, guys, like, who wants to go first? He's like, if not, I'll go, like, whatever. So Jasper makes his grand move, and he's like, I'll go, you know? And they're like, okay, come on, Jasper, let's do it. And so Jasper goes, he swings across, he gets over, they're like, yeah, everyone's cheering. And then he like looks down, he picks up the sign. He's like, yeah, the sign says Mount Weather. Like they're just so happy about everything. Well, mostly Clark's not really that happy, but everyone else is just like, it's a party, it's a party, it's a party, yay. And so they're over here like partying it up. Next thing you know, whoosh, Jasper caught a spear to the chest. It's crazy. Just like that. Caught a spear. They're like, oh my gosh, Jasper, no. Like, what? They run away for the second. They come back. Jasper's body is gone. His body? Like, what is going on? So they're like trying to like figure out what to do. They're like running around. They're like, oh, we got to get across this lake. They all go across the lake. They're like trying to see what's up. They go back. They eventually do find Jasper hung up on a tree with his wounds patched though. So they were like, that's odd. Like someone put something on his wound. So like he's more than likely going to be okay, you know? And they like drag him back to the drop ship. And they're like telling everyone, they're like, oh, someone like threw a spear at Jasper. Like, we don't know what happened. Like, someone just threw a spear at him or whatever. And like Jasper's damn near dying. He's all like, ooh, you know. At this point, Bellamy had gotten into the point of ripping people's bracelets off so that the Ark would think that they were dying. And he was basically telling people like, take your bracelets off or you don't get to eat. Like it came from very whatever you want to do to very much so like, I'm in charge, do as you're told. Like there was like a little bullying squad and stuff. And now everyone's coming to wrap their head around the fact that they're not the only ones down here on the ground. Changed a little bit. My phone started dying. My light started dying. So I'm back. So yeah, they're all like, oh my gosh, like there's other people down here, like what are we gonna do? And Clark's like, well, for one, don't take off your bracelets, because if we take off your bracelets, the Ark will think that you're dying. And they're like, well, that's the point. And it's like, you do realize the reason they sent us down here is because the Ark is running out of air. And that kind of shifts everyone's tune. Except for Bellamy, he was like, well, who cares? Like they're gonna just send guards and stuff anyway. And Clark's like, whatever, bro. Like she doesn't really like go into the deepness of the situation at that point. So they're like trying to figure out what's going on with the whole like outside grounder situation. So they start building a fence, you know. And then Monty, even though like he was in jail, he was looking to become a mechanic or an engineer. And so Clark had him start working on trying to build like communication system out of the bracelets, you know, so that like they could talk to the home ship and stuff. And while they're doing that, they're like, okay, well, we need to try to like go and like get some supplies or like figure out like what's going on, you know. Still trying to make that journey. And as they doing that, there's like behind the scenes. So basically, like Jaha has a son, and his son's name was Wells. And wait, was his name Wells? Or was that his last name? I think his last name might have been Wells. I don't ever think I think he was a junior probably. And they're like all bullying him and stuff because like obviously like his father's the chancellor. A lot of them had parents that were floated. So like there's like a high disdain for Wells down on Earth. In particular, this one small child. Okay. So like Wells is getting bullied, he's getting peed on, you know, he's like trying to help and like do all the things. And him and Clark used to be best friends, but Clark like hates his guts because she believes he's the reason that her father was floated, because she was like, well, the only person I ever told was Wells, and like then right after I told him my dad got arrested and then floated, so like obviously he's the culprit. But of course, her, Finn and Wells ends up walking through the forest together on a hunt for more supplies and stuff. So they're walking. And then like as they're walking, like Finn or Wells and Clark are arguing, or like he's just trying to get her to talk to him, and she's like, I don't want to speak to you, whatever. And so she like goes and gets buddy with Finn, and then Finn like pulls Wells, like he's like, well, like, you know, why would you want to speak to her if like this is what you did to her dad or whatever. They're walking, all of a sudden this yellow cloud appears in the air and all the birds are flying away, and they're like, well, that can't be good. We gotta do something. And so they're like running through the woods, because like the fog is acid fog, so basically it was burning up their skin and stuff. And they're like running, and they come across a car that's like buried in the ground, and they have to hop into the car. They close it up, try to seal it up, and they're like stuck in that car until the fog clears over. And while they're in there, they find like a really old bottle of whiskey, and they're like drinking whiskey. And then like Clark starts yelling at Wells again, like, you killed my dad, why, how could you do that? Now you just want to be buddy and like tell me what to do and whatever. And Wells just like, he just starts drinking then at that point too. And when Finn pulls him aside later, he's like, you don't really seem like a guy, like you seem pretty honest, like, so what would make you do something like that? And he kind of gets in Clark's ear about it too. And she's like, well, Wells is the only person I told, but he was like, but is he the only person that knew? Ooh. All right, now let's go to what's happening on the ark, right? Everyone's finding out that like they sent the kids to the ground. They're like, why would you do that? Like, why would you send these kids to the ground, like defenseless and stuff? And right before this, the chancellor had been shot, and they didn't know by who, but like the chancellor had been shot, but he survived. And they almost floated Abby, which is Clark's mom. Clark's mom's name is Abby. They almost floated her for using more medicine on him than she was supposed to. And as she was in the tank, you know, Jaha pops out. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, she's pardoned, right? And so they're like, whatever. Kind of just rolls on their back, and they're all like, well, what are we gonna do about the 100? Like, if we can't speak to them. And at this point, it kind of looks like Wells might be dead to them, just because he was forced to take off his bracelet by Bellamy and John Murphy, another notable character, but he doesn't really start to become too notable. He does a little bit in this season, but he becomes more notable later. But I also put up a picture of John Murphy. And so, boom, like, he thinks he's dead. He's not dead. And they're all like, just like, what are we gonna do? Like, how can we, like, you know, like, let people know about this? And like, what do we tell them? So then they do tell people, they're like, oh, like, the 100 were sent to the ground, and we were just trying to see if Earth is survivable. Like, they're kind of keeping everything hush hush. And while they're up there, though, like, they do eventually let people know, like, hey, like, we've only got 6 months of life support left on the Ark. And basically that means everyone will die in 6 months. And it kind of became unavoidable because people start getting sick, like hypoxia, you know, that's when you don't get enough oxygen. Yeah, and they were like having lines out the door, and there was really nothing you can do for people that are like literally just slowly dying of oxygen loss, right? So back on the ground, they're arguing about the whole, why would you take off your bracelets? We need a communication system. And then like they tell Bellamy, they're like, look, if you don't, like, if we don't get communication, no, hold on. So then they start so on the Ark, sorry, let me go back. And so after like all the people are getting sick, they have a counselor meeting and they talk about a culling, Culling. And they planned on culling 300 people in order to like give them a longer oxygen supply, till they figure out whether or not they should be going to the ground or not. And Abby was like, we can't just do that. Like, we can't just kill a bunch of people like without telling them, because they were just gonna like cut off the oxygen to like a certain part of the ship at night. And Jaha was all like, I'm gonna be there doing like a routine checkout of the area, so like y'all are gonna kill me too. Like, very much. I don't know if anyone's ever seen Isaiah Washington. He also plays Burke in Grey's Anatomy. But this has to be the whitest, like, black man, when he plays in TV, that I have ever seen. Like, this man, like, his God savior, his white savior complex is, like, on point. The shit is crazy. So they're like, no, they're like, whatever. So Abby decides to rebel again, and she, like, posts the video that her husband made about there being a little bit of air on the Ark. And people start volunteering to be cold, basically. They, like, come. They had more volunteers than they needed, actually. And they're, like, coming. Could you imagine, too, like, living in a society where you don't really care if you live anymore? Like, wild. But they cold people. But before this happens, too, Abby planned a secret mission with Raven, I'll put her right here, who is Finn's girlfriend on the Ark, even though he's down on Earth right now trying to mac on Clark. Actually, he has successfully macked on Clark at this point. Like, he done brought her coloring pencils, then made her a little totem. I told y'all this shit was gonna be chaotic, okay? Follow me now. The only problem with this show is that it's one of those shows where, like, they have multiple things running at once. So I'm trying to, like, get the storylines all matched up. But it's like they got, like, things going on in 3 different places. So he's macking on Clark. Raven is up there. She's a badass mechanic. She does 0G work. You know, she's living her dreams. Okay, girl power. STEM queen. Okay. And Abby recruits her to, like, build them a rocket ship so they can go fall down space. And because Abby can't do it herself, and at this point Abby's already released the message about the culling, and so they're like, but they had held it off for 10 days, so she was trying to get down there in 10 days to be able to, like, let people know up there that, like, the Earth is survivable, and that way they wouldn't kill a bunch of people. But they, like, literally at the last minute, Raven got down there and her ship crash landed into a river. and they all saw the ship falling down from the ark, but they're like, that's kind of weird. Like, it looks like a solo ship, you know? Like, it didn't look like there had that many people in it. Like, not like the big giant ships they had told them they were coming down in. And so Raven crash lands, so she's like kind of knocked unconscious. Abby has to stay up because she just got arrested for helping Raven get down to Earth. And then Bellamy tells everyone, we're gonna wait till the morning. We're gonna wait till the morning to like go check it out. Like, we don't want to check it out right now. Really, he secretly goes and leaves so that he could steal the radio off of the little ship that Raven was on, and like he basically waterboards the radio so that no one will find him, because come to find out, Bellamy shot the Chancellor, and that's how he was able to get on the drop ship to come down to Earth. Okay, so while he's like out, Clark was like, oh, he's going for the radio. So then they're like chasing after him, but they are too late, and he waterboards it. Raven wakes up and is like, what are you doing? They're about to kill 300 people. And Bellamy's like, what? Like, what? Like, I didn't know. Like, just like wallowing in the background. And then Raven sees Finn, jumps on him, and they start kissing. And Clark's all like, Finn! The other woman. A girlfriend. I think it's like a whole moment, you know? And then like she talks to Finn later, she's like, you didn't tell me you had a girlfriend. He's like, well, it's complicated. Like, I didn't think I'd ever see her again. Why? Mind you, they've only been on here like 2 weeks. They only been down there like 2 weeks, you know? It hasn't really been that long. So Raven gets to work helping Monty fix the radio, and they actually do helping Monty fix the radio or whatever. But before they can do that, they end up doing the coaling with all the volunteers, and they actually see from up top like all of the like sprinkles. Like, I guess like you can kind of see the funeral, because I guess when it's like an actual funeral, they like incinerate the people, and they all look like little stars falling down onto Earth. And so, and Clark's like, how do you feel about that? Because it's not like soldiers and doctors that they're calling. It's gonna be like the people that you're always like, my people this, my people. He does this like big Native American talking, like, my people what to, and it's just like, please shut up. Anyway, so yeah, so in order to get the Ark to see them before they call anyone else, there's like little rocket flares on the ship from the thrusters. They use those to light them off into the air, and they basically make like fireworks that you can see in space, and they see the glimmer. And like Jaha's like, well, like, let's not get our hopes up, like, we don't really know. And Abby's like, but like, you saw that, like, you know what that was. Like, that was them sending us a message. And so like Raven starts working on the radio with Monty, and they do eventually get it up, and they're able to like contact the Ark, and everyone's like, wow, 300 plus people just died for no reason. That's so wild. That's so crazy. How are you guys doing? Boom. So they're getting in contact. Everyone's talking to their parents and stuff. They're vibing. Jaha does pardon Bellamy eventually for like helping them. I don't know, because Clark basically co-signs them. They come to like an agreement where they like kind of like don't hate each other anymore after having like a scary trip on these nuts that they found in the woods. Like, everyone was eating them thinking they were snacks, and they're like small hallucinogens and stuff. And they run across like a bunch of guns. Mind you, at this point too, Octavia got kidnapped. like a lot has happened. Like, Octavia got kidnapped by a grounder called Lincoln, and Loki is kind of messed up because they do eventually end up falling in love, but Loki, she got Stockholm syndrome. Like, he dragged her and like locked her up in a little cave after helping heal her leg so he could basically study her like an insect, you know. But then after that, he's all like, but he was like, oh, it's just because like they try to make it pass off like, oh, he did it because he had this deep attraction. But like, that's kind of crazy, because like you're also trying to tell us that these people are intellectual, deserve to live, they have like society, they do things a certain kind of way. but then you're also like, oh, but they still are just a bunch of savages, because like, how could he like relay his love for a woman besides like beating, well, he didn't beat her, but like dragging her and locking her away. But then Bellamy does eventually find her, because he like follows Lincoln into the cave, and they like get into this whole fight. It's like a crazy thing. So yeah, so like all this is happening. The person that told Bellamy to shoot Jaha also tried to order another kid to kill Bellamy. Whatever. Didn't happen. They end up killing that guy, and they just went about their day. Wells did die. There was a little girl named Charlotte. He didn't die when they thought he was dead, but he died later. There was a little girl named Charlotte, and she had talked to Clark at first, and Clark was like, you know, you just gotta keep pushing forward, try to think happy thoughts, yada yada. Bellamy's all like, you know, when you're afraid of something, you say, I am not afraid, and then you slay your fears. And then he gives her a little knife, and he's like, slay your demons, rah rah. And then Clark had to mercifully kill someone in the woods because they had gotten their whole body burned down. And so she like does a little carotid action while humming a little tune. And this sick, well, she was a little sick, but this child, because she doesn't know any better, she's like, goes by Wells one night when he's doing his little patrol, his first watch or whatever, and he's like, oh, you can't sleep. He's being so kind. He's trying to talk to you, and he's like, she's all like, when I go to sleep, I see your dad, and then when I wake up, I see your face, and like, I just can't take it anymore. And then she just chops him in the neck with the knife, and she starts humming the little song, and then he tries to reach out, and she like slashes him again and like cuts off 2 of his fingers. And they thought grounders had done it for a while, but then they found his fingers with the knife, and the knife just happened to be John Murphy's knife. And so they try to hang John Murphy. They try to float him, which is just a hanging on the earth. And they were all like, he's all like wiggling around about to die. Charlotte's like, stop, it was me. And then like they let him go, and then like John's like, oh, so we're not gonna do the same thing to her? Put her up on the tree. And they're all like, we don't want to really do that because she is a small child. And he's like, what? It doesn't matter to me. And so like they like grab her and like start trying to hide her in the woods and stuff. But eventually she jumps off a cliff because the guilt was just eating her alive. And then they banish John Murphy into the wilderness, and he later gets captured by actual grounders. And at this point, you know, Lincoln, they know about Lincoln. They had actually tortured Lincoln for a bit because he stabbed Finn with a poison knife, and they tortured him to find the poison, but he would only give up the answer when Octavia cut herself because he loves her or whatever. And then like they end up releasing him, and then Finn let him go too. And Finn's all like, oh, well, like, let us talk to your leader, you know, and then like, let's try to make a pact. And so they like go to meet up with one of the grounder leaders. It's not like they're really the high boss, but, and her name's Anya. And like they're gonna meet up. Not a good first meeting. Anya's like, this is war. And they're like, why? And she's like, well, you remember when you shot those flares in the sky? Yeah, that burned a whole village down. They're like, we didn't mean to. And she's like, oh, well, like, now we're at war, bro. And so now they're at war. And so they're like trying to get all their defenses together. They go find a bunch of guns. And the first thing they do is they actually blow up the bridge that like connects the land together. So they blow up that bridge. Of course, they eventually make it across. And Raven helps them blow it up because they found rocket fuel from the they found rocket fuel from a fallen ship, and they use that to like blow up the bridge basically. At this point in the arc, they had a mutiny, and this one lady tried to become chancellor, and they were like, oh, well, like, they're not going to let you go down there first, and there's not enough ships to hold everybody, which was true. And they were hiding the fact that there wasn't enough ships to have everyone come down to Earth. And so they basically had a mutiny, and a bunch of people that were on her side got into one of the Exodus ships, and because they didn't properly disconnect the ship, they cut all the power off on the Ark, which effectively gave them like 2 days of like air supply, and they like rerouted all the air to like the mess hall, and they try to figure out like how are they gonna get back down to the ground. That ship crashed and burned. Abby, they thought Abby was on the ship, but she had hid in like this like little small section connecting the two, and so like she was still up there with them in the space. And Clark thought her mom had died in that crash too. All right, back to Earth. So yeah, so John Murphy appears back at the camp, and he is like beaten and like gagged and stuff. And they're all like, why are you back here? Why are you back there? He was like, well, this is the only place I knew to go. Like, I was running from the grounders. They had me captive. They tortured me for days. And they're all like, oh no, he told them where we were at. He told them everything. They just know it. Kind of find out they put biological warfare in John Murphy. I guess they gave him like some type of like poison that basically spreads upon contact. And everyone just started getting sick because everybody's touching everybody. Sound familiar? And because everyone was touching everybody, they like started getting sick. Some people died, and basically it's like used to soften the battlefield, you know, like not everyone will die, the strong will survive, but like a lot of people will get sick, and then like some of them will die, and it just like lessens the numbers, you know. And so they're like trying to figure out like what they're gonna do if the grounders attack, and Clark's like, we need to leave, like this is becoming too much, like we need to go, like they're about to do some crazy stuff, like, and we can't fight, like we don't really have fighters. And so they're like, oh, okay, like they agree to leave, but by the time they agree to leave, the scouts are already there. So when they step out, they start shooting arrows to keep people back, and they're like, okay, well, we can't leave now, we're gonna fight. And so Bellamy's like, he all prepared for the fight. He's like, get to your position. And so the war begins. But they have an idea. They're like, okay, well, like the drop ship, like we're all gonna have to hide in this drop ship if anything comes to anything. And they're like, well, there's rocket fuel in the drop ship. So if all the grounders come, then we'll just like blast off a little bit and it'll cook everybody. Whatever. So they obviously start losing the gun battle. Even though they have bullets, the like grounders are basically making them waste bullets by running like in a strange direction, and it's just making everyone paranoid and on edge. They do fight a little bit, you know, and then the grounders break through the wall. Even after Finn and Lincoln lead some Reapers toward them, which we're not going to go into the whole Reaper situation because that's another season. But they lead Reapers toward them, and Finn and Lincoln, they lead Reapers towards the grounder after they done finish fighting them off, which is very quick. Everyone starts getting to the dropship. Bellamy and Finn get stuck on the opposite side of the dropship though, and they do survive. But Clark had to make an executive decision and like scooted everyone in the dropship, and they blasted off. They blasted off into. Oh, I did forget one important thing. John Murphy tried to take over the dropship and ended up shooting Raven in the leg, so now she's like paralyzed in one leg. Small tidbit. They end up getting it back though, and they kicked him out. They were like, you got to leave, you know, we don't know what to tell you, you need to leave. And that's why the grounders knew that they had that they had where the gun holes and stuff was, but they didn't know about the mines because they had also kind of mined the area a little bit. But it's because the grounders had recaptured John Murphy and were searching him again for more information. Whatever. So then they're like, the grounders run in, they fry everybody up. Like a bowl of hot chicken, they just fry everybody up. All the grounders die. Anya managed to jump in the ship with them. And next thing you know, they just black out. They black out. They like open the thing and then they're blacked out and all of the kids disappear. Raven wakes up and Abby is like, what's happening? Where's everybody? Why are you only here? And it's just Raven and John Murphy looking each other in the eye inside the dropship. So yes, the Ark did manage to come down from space to Earth. They figured that they would just try their odds. A certain amount of people sat in different sections of the Ark, and they broke those sections up and had the thrusters cut on, and they pushed everyone towards Earth. And some of them did die upon impact of the atmosphere. It got too hot and it like blasted them away. And then other ones, they did manage to land. A really big chunk managed to land in one part, which they call Camp Jaha / Arcadia. And so they like go out to try to find the kids, and the kids are nowhere to be found. It's just Raven and John Murphy. And then Bellamy and Finn pop up later, because Finn had gotten, was it Finn? Yeah, I want to say Finn had gotten captured by the grounders, because the guy was like, I gotta come back home with something. And they start fighting this big grounder dude, but like the adult from Arcadia like shot him, and like, okay, we're gonna take you all back home. And that is how season 1 ends. So if you want to hear about season 2, The Mountain Men, let me know down in the comments below. But that is season 1 of The 100, and I know I tell a really chaotic retelling of this, but I do think that this is a show worth watching. Not just the season, like all of it. And what I really like about this show is like all of your questions are answered. Like, and any questions you really do have, they're not like big questions, they're not very important. It's like just like little things here and there, but like it's a very well-rounded show. Lots of character development. Some characters will continue to piss you off though, just because they are who they are, but there is a lot of good character development, a lot of good plot twists. They literally destroy the Earth 3 times in this, so if you like a good dystopian sci-fi thriller, this is a show for you. All right, if you watched to the end of this video, put the little dark side of the moon with the moon pie face in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.